feel comfy. If you haven't grabbed anything on the bar yet, you can go to the back, to the bar. The super great feature we have here is that you have screen next to the bar, so you will miss nothing while standing in the queue or waiting for the beer or whatever you will order. Let's have some slides. Okay. So usually I forget about this, so this time I remember. My nickname is Ivelios. You can call me Ivelios. So I welcome you to the Pykonik Tech Talks 84. Welcome, welcome. First and foremost, this is the QR code, or you can go to pykonik.org/feedback. This is the place where we are gathering your feedback. It's a super short questionnaire where we truly look into this. We are looking for improvements all the time because, you know, Pykonik is happening every month, or as you will see today, even more often. But please go to that website. You can go now. You can go during the talks, during the pizza, which will be at the end, or you can go afterwards. But I would prefer you go there during the meetup and fill it in, because we truly need it, and we look at it, and it's super simple. Okay, no more advertisement like this. So this is the schedule for today. Today we'll have Gracjan in a few minutes on the stage. The title is super long, but basically it's about libraries and working on libraries and nanobind. Then we'll have Vlad, who will tell us about the MCP servers. And then lightning talks. So who's got the lightning talk already? One hand, second hand. I have some community news. Sorry? What is a lightning talk? That's a perfect question, you ask. So lightning talk is a short form of presentation which takes up to the 5 minutes. It can be less, but no more. And this is the presentation where you can present basically anything that may be relevant to what we are talking about here. Mainly Python, but also coding, some, I don't know, making, hacking stuff you do, some, I don't know, home lab stuff, whatever technical or non-technical related to engineering in general is good. Did I answer your question? Yay. Oh. Okay, so afterwards, after lightning talks, we'll have pizza and after party. Who's staying for after party? Who's staying for pizza? Oh, okay, we have to change the order. First after party, then pizza. Okay. All right, now we'll go a round of applauses and some news for our sponsors. So first of all, big thanks to ECHO Miasta and Tytano, who are hosting us here. We are here because of them, and thanks to them. Big round of applause. All right. Secondly, our sponsor, Relativity. Gandhi, come to the stage for a few words. Relativity is sponsoring our pizza today, and yeah.
Okay. All right, so 2 words about Relativity. I used to have a presentation here. I had a presentation here 3 months ago when I just joined the company. So now I'm there for 3 months, and I still don't complain too much, which is quite good. What is Relativity? Relativity is a company in Cracow who is a leading legal data intelligence company. So basically, we work in the e-discovery. And this is a company that is having a lot of AI-heavy processing of legal data, which are pre-processing of the files before the trial. But it's not only AI. The company exists for 25 years, and it has 1,700 employees worldwide, with a huge development office in Cracow on Aleja Pokoju 5. We have around 700 people here in Cracow, and we have a quite lovely office. And majority of the engineering is hosted in Cracow. And actually, this engineering is quite interesting because of a scale of problems that we solve. It's easy to process 200 files to 1,000 files, but it's much harder to process to millions of files, and there are bigger workspaces than that. And if you're interested in Relativity overall, or if you're interested in reading about Relativity, you can visit the website or ask me. If you're interested in joining, we have some Python-friendly positions, I call it this way. Majority of the web development in company is in .NET, but we have a lot of data science led by done in Python. So if you're interested, here's a QR, there are some brochures on the table, or you can ask me at any point. And thanks for having us here. And I also wanted to pass additional thanks for Maya at the bar, who is serving drinks for us. So I think she deserves a round of applause for her work today as well.
Thank you. And a big round of applause for Gandhi. Yeah, do it. Okay, quick rounds for Programista magazine. Those of you who haven't grabbed yet any issue, they are on the desk at the entrance. You can grab there for free from Programista. Also, we have paged out issues on the desk, also for free. Big round of applause for them. These issues were actually they are available for free online if you look up on the web. So you can download PDFs, but they are printed for the events, thanks to the sponsors. And this time it was HackArcana. Okay, ECHO or HackArcana. So anyway, big round of applause for them. As always, thanks to our partner CLUG and guys at the back, because they are streaming and recording everything. Thanks to them, you hear me. That's the first thing. Another thing is you can see me online, and you can see the talks online. And third thing is that when you get back home, you can still watch us again on our YouTube. Big thanks to our sponsor JetBrains, who's delivering the keys to their licenses for their software for the competition. Round of applause for them, and I will explain the competition. Thank you. All right, so competition. Those of you who are here every month, you know already how it works. On our Discord server, you can find a channel at the top of the list of channels. You can find the Pykonik 84 channel. This is the place where you should go and put some news or some things that you have learned recently and you want to share with others. And the person that will get most reactions from the most people will get the license for the software from JetBrains. So if you are not on our Discord yet, this is the place to go, because it's a pretty active community. We are trying to discuss different things, not just Python things. And this is the best place to be up to date with our meetings. And this is a new slide this month. Yeah, obviously, we will have pizza, but this is a reminder for me to tell you that it is very important for us that you sign up on Meetup.com, the place where we announce the event, because this is our source of truth for ordering amounts of pizza. So if you will leave today hungry, it will be up to you because of you not signing up there. So please sign up every month when you are coming here. Sign up on Meetup.com, because that way we'll have more pizzas. And we love pizza, right? Please mind that we have no pineapples on this emoji. So, Pykonik Tech Talks. I think I'm a little bit late. So, in a minute, we'll switch computers and Gracjan will be on the stage. So, let's welcome him to the stage. Gracjan, he's coming here. Come on. Big round of applause for him. And in a minute, we'll start.
One. Oh. All
Perfect.
right.
Oh, thank you. All right. So once again, big round of applause for our first speaker today, Gracjan.
Hello, everyone. As you can see, we have a pretty unorthodox title for this talk. It's a reference to one of Stanley Kubrick's movies about Cold War, and I have no the idea for that particular title. But basically, we were going to talk about a couple of things, mainly PyBind 11, its successor NanoBind, I guess JSONs, and, well, fixing unmaintained packages. But first, who am I? I am currently a third-year student of applied computer science at AGH. I am the current president of a computer science student club at my faculty. I am a C++ developer at Digatus. Last year, in the summer, I was an intern in the Paul Scherrer Institute in Switzerland. I am a certified mole lover, like you could have guessed from the picture. I'm interested in high-performance computing, GPUs, and all the fun stuff. And my nickname is Grigger5 on GitHub. So, first, what is PyBind 11? Did anyone ever hear about it? Raise your hands. OK, just a couple people. So, let's go through it quickly. It was created by Wenzel Jacob, who is currently an associate professor at EPFL, which is also located in Switzerland. It is a header-only library, so it's pretty easy to use, based on C++11. It exposes C++ types to Python and vice versa, and it does so by being a wrapper over the typical C API for Python, and it has pretty minimal boilerplate, which we will see in a bit. And here is a quick comparison with Boost Python, which also enables creation of bindings and is part of the Boost libraries for C++. And you can see that it beats it in both compilation time and file size. Maybe it's not that much of a win, but still a win. So does anybody even use PyBind 11? Yeah, quite a lot of libraries. And those are pretty heavy hitters. We have both TensorFlow and PyTorch and JAX for machine learning. We have image processing libraries like scikit-image and OpenCV. Also stuff for robotics. That's the ROS2, robot operating software, even though it's not an operating software, just a framework. And also SciPy for scientific computing. So you can see that there's quite a clientele for that. And a quick comparison between creating bindings with the bare C API and with PyBind 11. Let's say we have a simple algorithm written in C or C++, but it's taking a pointer. It's an insertion sort, which you probably wrote a lot of times. And because it is written in C, it's probably pretty fast and would be faster if we just implement it in plain Python. And to have it available in Python, using the python.h and the C API, it takes quite a bit of code. We have to use let's say, kind of weird functions. We have to allocate it. We have to iterate through it basically 2 times. We then have to create a table of the methods that we want to expose, then a module, then initialize the module. And with PyBind 11, it's basically this. And if it didn't take a raw pointer, but, for example, vector, array, or list, or whatever else, then we would only need the bottom 3 lines. We basically do create the module and say module define, put our function, and the template magic and some macros will do everything for us. So that's really great. Really great, much less boilerplate. And now, what is NanoBind? It is also created by Wenzel Jacob, and it is intended to be a successor to PyBind 11. It It is built on top of C++17, so it utilizes much more of its features. It compiles faster, it produces smaller binaries, it has lower runtime overhead, it has a pretty similar API, and most importantly, it is built on top of years of feedback and hard lessons learned from building and using Python 11. And some comparisons between them. You can see it's also compared to Cython and BoostPython and PyBind. You can see that when it comes to compilation time and binary size, nanobind wins. And a quick explanation, the func means that it's a function-heavy module, and class means it's a class-heavy module. But it's not all winning, because, for example, when it comes to runtime performance, Cython is a bit better when it comes to class-heavy modules. But with function-heavy modules, nanobind has a small lead. And you can see that there's a huge difference with Python 11 when it comes to runtime performance. In case of the class-heavy module, that's basically an order of magnitude. And you may be wondering, OK, he created, or they created, the whole team, nanobind, but is someone switching from Python 11, or is it still enough? Well, some people are switching, some not. For example, JAX, which is a library created by Google for machine learning and heavy processing and stuff like that, actually is switching to nanobind because it started with Python 11, but for whatever reason, they decided it's better to port it. And now, getting slowly closer to the actual topic of the talk, what is Python 11 JSON? It's also a header-only library, which basically exposes automatic conversion between Lochman JSON types, which are Lochman JSON is like the most popular library for JSONs in C++, though it's also, I think, the slowest that is available there. And basically, it will automatically cast Python types into the JSONs and JSONs into the Python types. And you only need to include that one header, and it all works. We can have code like this, some function that processes a JSON, and just like in the previous example, we put it into the module, and it will work just like that. We don't need to add anything other than the Python 11 JSON header. And does anybody use Python 11 JSON? Well, some people, but it's certainly not as popular as Python 11 by itself. I think the most interesting one is Zeus Python. Zeus is an alternative kernel for Jupyter notebooks, developed by, unfortunately, I don't remember who, but they use it in their Python implementation because actually Zeus also provides a kernel for C++, which is interesting. The robot operating software that I mentioned earlier also uses Python 11 JSON for passing internal configurations. And also PyBartMC, to which I am a contributor. And actually, this is the whole reason why I even touched that package and had to fix it. So, very quickly on PyBartMC. It's a Pythonic wrapper for PartMC, and PartMC is a pretty old and pretty big library for atmospheric aerosol simulation that is developed in Fortran. And because it is developed in Fortran, it's not particularly easy to install and use. It is developed at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, and there are also a lot of contributions from AGH University of Cracow. There are 4 languages in the code base, which are C, C++, Fortran, and Python. And I guess the C code is kind of embedded in the C++, so you could say it's free, but 4 sounds more unhinged, so I prefer that. It's available on Linux, Windows, and macOS as downloadable Python wheels. And it uses Python 11 JSON under the hood to provide a more Pythonic experience and to have it more flexible and to not have to use additional files like in the Fortran implementation. And throughout the development, we decided to switch to nanobind, which was successful, but there were some bumps during that. And I can say that we actually got a much faster compilation because almost 4 times faster. So, about the switching. As I said, the API is very similar, so just changing the code, the module building part to nanobind wasn't that hard. It was basically renaming some of the functions, reading the documentation. But we needed an alternative to bindband11 JSON. But luckily for us, it exists. In the repository for bindband11 JSON, they linked some equivalent to nanobind. Then let's just add it to our project, and let's compile it, right? Well, we got a small error that it couldn't include the nanobind header. And when we look into the nanobind repository, we see that the main header is .h, not .hpp. OK, let's change it to .h and see what happens. A lot of errors. 439 lines of errors, actually. So what do we do when we want to use a third-party library and we have a wall of errors in it? Well, we get in touch with the maintainer, right? And that's what we found in his README on GitHub. As of January 10, 2025, this account will not be actively maintained as I no longer work at National Institute of Standards and Technology. So unfortunately, no luck there. He did say to see his contact info on LinkedIn, and I tried to reach out to him, but unfortunately, he did not respond. So I had nothing else to do but to actually fix it myself. And the process was relatively simple, at least at the beginning. I just read one of the 400 errors. I mean, less. It was 400 lines, not necessarily 400 errors, which probably says something, not found, couldn't do something, la, la, la. I then go looking through the documentation for bindband11 and nanobind to find the equivalent functionalities. Then I change that one line and recompile, and hopefully there will be one error less. And to give you an example of that, we'll look at two sets of functions. First one is cast. It is a method inside handle, and handle is like the most basic, well, handle for Python objects on the C++ side that every other type will then derive from. And it's also not reference counted, as you can see. And cast was a method defined there. And so you could use it like that. You had a handle, you call cast, voila, you have the int. But in nanobind, that's actually a standalone function that you call from the nanobind namespace. And other than that, it works the same, but that's changed. It's not a method anymore. So I had to go through the whole code, and everywhere where it was called, change it to a separate function call. Another interesting example is load and cast, and that cast is completely different than the previous one. And do you have an idea what those functions might be doing from just their name? Maybe not. They were the functions that you have to overload when you want to create a new caster for a new type. And load was responsible for, well, casting from Python types to C++, and cast was responsible for casting from C++ to Python. And in nanobind, they decided to change their name for something much more understandable, just from Python and from C++. There was some change in the function signature, but it wasn't relevant for this project. Didn't have trouble with that. But I think that also shows what kind of differences there are between bindband11 and nanobind. For example, more explicit naming. But there were also other problems, one of which were circular references. In PyPartMC, among, I think at the time, 300 tests, now it's closer to 400, there was a test literally called fixed segfault case on circular reference, where we create a circular reference, we pass it to the underlying C++ API, and we expect that a runtime error will be raised. But the nanobind JSON that I copied was not doing that. Thankfully, in the bindband11 JSON repository, they already had a pull request fixing that, and it was already merged, so I could just look into how they did it and, well, copy the behavior. And it was quite simple. In the helper function that takes the handle and returns JSON, they also added taking a reference to references of seen objects. So basically, every time we pass through a dictionary or a list, we try to insert it into the set. If we can't insert it because it's already there, we know it's a circular reference. But at the end, we also erase that reference, because otherwise we wouldn't protect against circular references, but just duplicate objects in the whole dictionary or the whole list or embedded stuff. Yeah. And after fixing that, everything works. PyPartMC compiles, all 400, 300 tests are passing, and we can fork the nano.json and add our changes, because I forgot to mention that during this process, I was basically working, let's say, locally inside PyPartMC to just have a quick look at the 300 tests, if they are passing, and edge cases and stuff like that, because it was just easier. But after that was done, I decided to just fork the repository, add the changes, and then obviously add a pull request to the original. So, time to fork it. Let's go to the page of this project, and oh, there already is some pull request. Oh, it's an update for the current nanobind version. And it fixes everything that I've spent I don't know how many hours doing. So, okay, that's nice. Should have checked it first, I guess. That's a lesson learned. So, the plan. Let's create a fork, add the temporary branch with the working setup that I already did on PyPartMC so that the library can continue working. It's not blocked by this development. We merge Peter's PR because, well, let's give credit where credit is due. He did it first, so let's leave some footprint of it. Adjusts were necessary because I wanted it to be, I wanted the code style to resemble how the nanobind code also looks. Write the tests, covering the similar scope that they did in PyBat11JSON with their testing, and add a quick CI workflow for the tests. And we kind of already covered the first three, so we can go straight to testing. But there was another problem. No embedded interpreter. And what I mean by that? If you look at the tests in the PyBat11JSON library, there's only a C++ file, which uses Google Test to just test the functionality completely inside C++, because PyBat11 enabled embedding interpreters. You could create a scoped interpreter, and in that particular scope, a Python interpreter instance would be running in the background, and you could do stuff like you can see creating the Python bool objects inside, then you can assign it to the C++ object, and the casting will actually happen. It was actually created by a Python interpreter. But in nanobind, it's not there, and it will never be there, because it was decided that that shouldn't be the scope of this project. It should only consist of bindings and no multi-interpreter or embedding interpreters. So how can we resolve that problem? Well, I've just looked at how nanobind does its testing, and I've noticed that basically every test has a pair, C++ file and a Python file. And inside, they will just create a module of what they want to test in C++, which will either take some object or return that particular object. And on the Python side, with PyTest, they will just test it by either also just providing that object or having it returned from C++ and doing asserts there. So let's write our first test, just sending a simple Boolean value. So it will look like this. We just return false, and we also take a JSON that will check if it's a Boolean and if it's equal to false. And on the Python side, we will just do the same, also with some asserts. So let's compile it, and let's run it. Oh, runtime error. So it passed on the from JSON, so we could send a JSON to Python. But when we receive it, there is an error. So, OK, that's weird. Then to check what's happening, let's just add some basic printing, because that's the best way of debugging stuff, right? So let's print is not Boolean if it's not Boolean, and let's print is not false if it's not false. It's not Boolean. Okay, that's interesting. Then maybe let's just print what that JSON actually is. Null. Huh. Well, that's interesting, because basically only from Python fails, and PyPartMC works fine, despite sending a lot of JSON from Python to C++. And we receive a null value instead of bool. And I have also tested with sending, let's say, more JSON-like data, like dictionaries or lists, because I thought that, OK, maybe sending primitive types is somehow broken. Let's send something that actually looks like a JSON. But no, it also failed. So what's wrong? And then I remembered that PyPartMC uses a different branch with stuff that only I got working. And here I merged the other pull request. So there must be a slight change between both of them, and I have to find it. And it also took me a lot of time, because I didn't think of it first that this was the difference. But then, basically looking line by line, I've managed to find the difference and to understand why it was broken. So basically, this is the culprit function, or rather a method, because this is a method defined in a template specialization of the class template called typecaster, which you have to overload to enable casting from different types. And do you have an idea what might be broken here? Which line in particular breaks it? If not, let me mark it with red. It's this part here. Because what autoValue does is it creates a local variable called value with some type. But in the scope of this function, we do not return it anywhere. Why? Because the code should look like this. We shouldn't create a variable value. The value is a field already in that class or class template. And we should just write the value there, and somewhere along the line, it will be read from here. But here, we basically overshadowed the name value, and we created some variable. So then when you try to read from it, it's a null. So that was a pretty simple thing for something that took me a lot of time. And basically, after that, writing the rest of tests were rather uneventful. It was pretty simple. So now testing works locally. Let's add CI testing on GitHub Actions. It should also be pretty easy, right? Just a simple file, set up Python, install PyTest, build the testing module with CMake, and run Python. And certainly, building it on Linux, macOS, and Windows at the same time also won't be an issue, right? Well, it also took quite a lot of commits, quite a lot of tries to get it right and get it working. And if we look at some of those failing workflows, then we will see why. Or we won't see why, because it was half a year ago, and they are unfortunately expired. But I managed to recreate at least some of the errors again, but it was also very painful because there was a lot of spaghetti code that I had there. So basically, after a couple commits and fixing stupid stuff, we arrived here, that Ubuntu was passing, macOS was passing, and Windows was failing. So my idea was, OK, Windows, as always, breaks something, then I will just leave only Windows and debug there. Which we will see that wasn't exactly easy. But in general, the problems were wrong YAM syntax, because, of course, wrong paths, specifically on Windows, because their compiler creates the executables, the objects in a different file, like debug, release, all that stuff. Also, there were cases where the Python package was not found because I screwed up the installation. But what was the worst was this. For example, here, I'm testing on 6 different Python versions. 4 of them are failing on Ubuntu, 2 are passing. And the error is undefined symbol PyObject vector call, which I already see is probably part of the Python.ahc API. On macOS, all Python versions failed, and I see a similar error. That something was not found in a namespace, and it also seems like part of that API. And on Windows, I see that almost everything is passing, besides the latest Python. And here I get an error that DLL could not be loaded, it was not found. But what was also the problem was because I started from here, and I decided that the problem is only on Windows. So when I got to fixing this issue, I was only debugging it on Windows, and I thought it was in the Windows only, and that it does not touch the other versions. And that also took a bit of time. But the second culprit was then revealed. I was looking through the GitHub Actions logs, also basically line by line. And in CMake configuration, I also noticed something very wrong. And if you do not see it yet, then check this out. Python was found twice. It was searched for twice, and was found twice with 2 different versions, which caused that incompatibility. And maybe if you worked a lot with Python and C bindings, let's say on lower level, or just with Python, maybe you already knew that this kind of error is probably caused by differing Python versions, but I did not know that, and it took me a lot of time. And then I looked into my CMake and saw what was the problem. I was initializing nanobind before I did define package Python in CMake. So nanobind found some Python because it was there in their CMake, and I found another Python from which I built the module. So then I had basically 2 versions of Python's clashings, and that caused all of those problems, the missing DLLs and the missing items. And that was basically the end. After that, everything was rather smooth sailing, and everything was passing. And also, during that time, I actually emailed Wenzel and said that I'm doing something like that. And I'm very proud that he said that it looks great. And he also told me to add it to the Nanobind repository to link my code. And it's actually linked in the official Nanobind documentation in the frequently asked question sections. And that's also something I'm very proud of. And you can check out the repository here. And leave a star if you want. At the end, I also have a small bonus. I added something that is not actually in PyBind 11 JSON. And you can see that an issue for it is already 3 years old. And that's ordered JSONs. To be honest, it's not that hard. I did basically exactly the same code I did for the non-ordered JSONs, and it was working and passing. So that's great. And I should probably make also a pull request to PyBind 11 JSON and also add it there so that issue could be finally closed. And also, small help wanted. If you find any bugs in this library because you want to use it or because you like breaking stuff, feel free to create an issue or even a PR fixing it. And also, if you would like to double with Python bindings from C++, you could try to include other JSON libraries. For example, simd.json, which is the fastest, I think the fastest JSON library for C++. And also a couple of fun facts behind the scenes because I still have some time. I showed that on Windows, only the newest version was failing. All the other ones passed. But actually, when I was fixing it, you can see a comment that only the newest version was passing and all the old ones were failing. And I don't know how that happens because I thought that I copied the code and it should recreate the bug, but for whatever reasons, it was completely flipped. During creation of this presentation and those slides, I accidentally created the pull request to the main repository of nanobyte.json, the original one, instead of my own. And I already did it 3 separate times, unfortunately. I also created already the pull request to the original repository with my changes. So it says pull requests 2 instead of 1. And I wanted to show that there was only 1. So what did I do? Well, I fixed it like every hacker in primary school, and I just used inspect element and changed it to the 2 to 1. Also, I've used a lot of the teammate GitHub actions, which basically allowed me to SSH into the virtual machines that were running the code. And I left one also open for more than 2 hours. I actually used Git cherry pick for the first time in my life, actually trying to achieve something. And I also wanted to already present that library on a lightning talk on a previous Pykonik, but my laptop decided to not cooperate with the HDMI. And now, just a round of special thanks. First off, I mean, in no particular order, but first off, PyPartMC developers, specifically Sylvester Arabas, Nicole Rimmer, and Jeff Curtis, especially Sylvester, because he is the one who actually brought me to PyPartMC. Also to Max Schmidt, because he's the one who created the teammate session GitHub Actions. To Peter Arts, because he's the one who created the PR that fixes nanobind JSON before me. To Ian Bell, because he created the original nanobind JSON repository. To Aleksander Wadelsky for moral support throughout my painful making of all of those slides. And to Kacper Wojtowicz for pestering and rage baiting me while I was making all those slides. Also to Pyrant 11 JSON team for the blueprints of how to fix some of the issues and what exactly to test. And to Vasil Jacob for creating Pyrant 11 and Nanobind. And obviously, a big thank you to you for listening.
Thank you very much. I will have first question here.
Yeah, thanks for the great talk. I was wondering, because you saw us that you are building this on Windows, on macOS, and probably on Linux?
Yes.
On the CI? How do you build the different platforms? Do you have like separate scripts for each of them? And
no, it's all in the same YAML configuration file for the GitHub Actions. It just builds it on a matrix of the OS and Python versions.
Yeah, but different OS means different compiler and stuff. Is this all like
yes, it does use different compilers. The default one for a specific version. So on macOS it builds with CLUG. On Ubuntu it builds with GCC, and on Windows it builds with their Microsoft compiler, whatever that was called, and it works with all of them.
Okay, thanks.
Any more questions? I see none. All right, big round of applause for Gracjan. Okie dokie. So let's have 5 minutes of break because we are on schedule. We'll have another talk from Vlad. He's slowly moving towards the scene. But meanwhile, you can go to the bar, you can grab something to drink, you know, hydrate. And yeah, we'll see each other in 5 minutes. We'll start another talk. Yeah, that's it. Have a drink and talk to someone new you don't know yet. I challenge you. And it cannot be me because all of you know me. Hello, hello. Let's come on, guys. I know. We'll speak more. Have a seat. Take your seats, please. I'm asking for now, but I will stop asking. Come on, guys. Let's go. We'll start another talk. We are already here on the stage. Let's go, let's go. So, first of all, question. Who has lightning talk for today? 1, 2, 3. Where's this go? He's not raising hands, but I know you have talks, some lightning talks. So it's 4, and me is 5. I counted you. Good. So let's go with another talk. This one is about very hot recently topics of creating MCP server. Are are MCP servers something old already? Yes. Who's using this legacy stuff?
Depends who's asking.
It depends who's asking. You have enabled your microphone? Świeci? Okay.
Okay.
Now we can hear you. Yes. So yeah, about something legacy stuff. Okay. Let's have this. So big round of applause for Vlad. Let's go.
Hi, so my name is Vlad. I'm a software engineer, and today I wanted to talk about what does it take to build robust remote MCP servers with Python and FastMCP. And maybe a small digression. So as web requirements have evolved, so did our methods of integrating our systems, and for a long period of time we had REST, and we still do have REST, which is a great API style, which was more like resource centric, and clients would need to know like the resource tree, all the URLs to use to interact with the server. And then the GraphQL emerged, which is more, I would say, schema first. It has one endpoint which is introspectable. It introduced some more like primitives and concepts such as queries, mutations, subscriptions. Basically, what people wanted from it is to have like some end-to-end type safety from server back to client and back and forth. And now we have MCP, which basically, as for me, reminds me more of GraphQL than REST, because still it introduces quite similar concepts such as tools, resources, and prompts. It also has, in principle, one endpoint which the clients could introspect to learn what they can do with a particular MCP server. But one thing changes significantly, which is there is no more a developer which basically writes queries, writes API client to interact with the server. There is a model which stands behind it, and I would say it changes quite significantly how we need to think about how to design our APIs to have that in mind. And basically, there is no magic in MCP, and I could agree it's probably legacy, because under the hood it's basically plain HTTP, and you can use any HTTP client you may want to interact with any MCP server. And MCP is just a convention. You can register like your MCP server under any path endpoint you would like. And what it does, it just speaks JSON RPC to .0 over plain HTTP, and you can introspect that into whatever you like. So basically, when I started working with FastMCP, and when I basically was thinking about this presentation, I wanted to answer a question, or maybe I was wondering, how do we actually take like some expertise, some patterns we have developed working with frameworks such as FastAPI and Flask, and bring those patterns that we have discovered, use the toolings that we already have, and basically bring over this expertise to this shiny new technology. And basically that's the whole goal of this presentation, to answer that question, at least for myself. And so when I started thinking about it, the very first thing that that came up to my mind is the app factory pattern, and it's basically a very simple and primitive pattern, but it's super powerful, and I believe it should not be neglected very easily. So what it is just actually basically a function which returns an instance of your application, and that's a place where you can inject any like external dependencies such as authentication, configuration, like feature flags, any dependencies you may think of, and you won't need to basically branch out your like code for every specific environment you might have. Each environment would just configure the application the way it needs, and the app configuration code stays the same. And there's also it's also a great place for like app-wide configurations, and two notable options are mask error details and unduplicate error. What those options do, basically by default, if your MCP server or like any code within your MCP server raises an error, FastMCP would try to consume it and translate it automatically into a tool error, which means that at any point, if your app crashes or if you raise an error explicitly, it will automatically be like the internals of the error automatically would be exposed to the model, which you probably don't want because of some private personal identifiable information or some secrets and etc. So mask error details just makes sure that every like non-tool error exception would just be converted to some generic error message. And unduplicate error means that if you try in any point in your application to register two duplicate resources at the same time, it will just fail at startup, not something that you will just then discover from traces or logs. And yeah, that's also a great place to configure some like cross-cutting cursors such as middlewares and etc. And a great example is actual authentication, because here you can see that, for example, if you need your MCP server to authenticate users, you have several options. And if you're using some existing like established identity providers such as Google or GitHub, they do not quite support OAuth 2.1 or also like MCP authorizations intricacies. For example, they do not support dynamic client registration, so you would need to use authentication proxy for that. Or if you're building, for example, some MCP server for your like internal company usages, and you already have some DCR compatible provider such as Workos or Desktop, you could just use remote OAuth provider. And when you're developing or when you're writing tests, you can just inject static token verifier with some like pre-built fake fabricated tokens and use those just by providing this authorization token value. And yeah. So another thing that happens inside the app factory is actually mounting FastMCP instance as an ASGI sub-application. And there are several like things to keep in mind as well. First of all, there is an HTTP app method, which basically returns an ASGI application, which you can then mount. And it's a starlet application under the hood, and I will show it later. Stateless HTTP true is necessary if you do not want to deal with some cryptic 400 errors at night. Basically, what it means is that for example, if you want to scale up your deployment to use multiple workers or to deploy in like multiple containers or bots within some Kubernetes cluster, you would need to configure that. It would mean that a session would not be sticky and it would not be tied to a specific process serving the request. And you would need to combine lifespans. If you already use, for example, FastAPI for your APIs, or I mean, for any reason, if you already use FastAPI, you would just need to make sure that on the lifespan of your main application, you also fire up the lifespan of sub-application, and it's particularly needed for basically HTTP session management within FastMCP. And you need to choose like the mount prefix where you need to mount your ASGI application as well as MCP path in order not to end up with some weird paths for your MCP server. And yeah, so basically what HTTP app returns under the hood is just like a subclass of starlet with lifespan property. And if you're using authentication like providers, as I shown before, you would need to register well-known endpoints. Those are part of MCP authorization specification. Basically, your MCP server needs to declare where clients could find protected resource metadata document and how they can discover authorization servers you're using for like basically authenticating tokens and registering clients and so on. So that's what those well-known endpoints provide. And you need to mount them in the root of your application. So basically, your main ASGI application needs to serve those endpoints. And you can do that just by, for example, registering an API router within FastAPI application. Yeah, and another thing is that this app factory could take care of registering the tools or basically any MCP resources provided by any of your application modules. And it gives a very great benefit in ways that dependencies in your application would flow one way, inwards, instead of outwards. So the modules would, for example, if you have different modules, each module would declare like tools or any resources, and the app itself would be responsible for going into those modules, pick up the resources, and registering them. Each module doesn't need to know about some app factory or application even existing. All they need to do is just declare functions. They can use depends for like dependency injection, and the app would take care of registering the tools. And basically what you would probably do is just register them within some function using some like SDKs available from FastMCP. And as I said, basically, application would need to reach into modules, which decouples your modules from the application. The modules do not need to know about how the tools they provide are even used. And also what we learned from working with FastAPI and basically this ecosystem over the last few years is that Pydantic is awesome and we should be using more of it. And Pydantic models are actually basically your API contracts that the model sees, and you should be using it as much as you could. And it means using semantic types such as ML string or Pydantic extra provided types is really beneficial for the model because it provides more constraints and more like information about what actual types your tool can accept. And you can also harden those models further with, for example, making them frozen and forbid any like unsupported parameters. And it also applies to the response models. For example, if you like return some structured data, you could validate them with, once again, Pydantic models. Those Pydantic models, or basically their JSON schema, is also injected into the tool definitions. So clients know what data you're returning, are able to also validate against that. But what's also like the most important to my mind is that you're basically responsible for returning valid data. If you do not do that, FastAPI, FastMCP allows you to declare output schemas. But what it does is that, okay, it will accept any object you return, it will use that schema, and if the validation fails, it would just return some validation errors to the model. You would not receive any information in your logs, you would not be able to trace it, at least out of the box, and all you will get is like some reports that the stuff is not working because like validation errors are being returned. By having validation in place explicitly in the tools, you're responsible for returning like valid data, and you're responsible for handling the errors. And that's a great benefit. So when it comes to error handling, actually there is, to my mind, a significant cap. For example, when working with FastAPI, we have something like exception handler decorator, and FastMCP doesn't have that. So you would need to come up with your own. And for me, a great pattern is, you would just declare like custom exceptions, whatever like semantic exceptions you would need. And if you have mask error details true, you would still get those like generic error messages, which are like not useful at all to the model. So you would need to translate them somehow into some actionable details which the model can act upon. And that's where you can use, for example, context manager in order to define like error handling boundary and to like map those domain errors explicitly into specific tool error messages. And if you have a lot of these errors, and I believe at some point you just would, you could scale it up with, for example, single dispatch from standard library, or to like by defining some sort of registry in order to keep like handlers per error type. Basically, you would need to implement your own FastMCP app error handler, but it's not that difficult. And when it comes to dependency injection, depends is also not enough in itself. So FastAPI has dependency overrides, and FastMCP doesn't have anything of that. But there are a lot of cool external tools which could fill in the gaps, and one of them is services. And so what services two, they basically provide you with a registry, which can keep like track of services you have and how to build them. And it gives you a way to build a dependency container, which actually holds the instances of services you need. And this container is by default request scoped, at least in standard integrations. And you could also implement your own with FastMCP. So the benefit of it is that basically tools do not know that you have any like registry or container dependency injection container. All they see is dependencies from FastMCP, but you can wire them up in such a way that those dependencies from FastMCP would operate upon like services registry or services container. So your tools stay intact basically, but you have you gain like real benefit. For example, in testing environments where you could just override specific services in registry, for example, to register some fakes and use those to make your tests more flexible and declarative, and not to mocker patch all the way up to like your third-party application code. And yeah, so that would be it when it comes to some implementation details. And another thing I wanted to talk about is how we could actually design our API or tools strategically to make the most use, like to make LLMs use them in the most efficient and error-prone way. So the first thing is we should probably design top-down from workflows, not from APIs. And the main reason for it is basically context rot. If you have a lot of tools, those declarations are very token expensive, and it will basically eat up your context window and won't leave that much space for the model to actually reason. So instead of having like granular tools per API endpoint, it's better to design a tool which could handle like the entire workflow you're trying to implement. And the workflow itself will be programmatic, it will be deterministic, because you will orchestrate like all the API calls under the hood, and the model would still have like some more deterministic way to pick a tool and how to use it. And basically a similar pattern. Instead of having like a lot of CRUD tools to insert, update, patch, and so on, you can just have a single upsert tool with some like interface the model could use in order to alter like the functional, the strategy of updating your data. And actually a great example of some, I would say, tool granularity issue tackling is Square MCP server, because what it does, it basically divides the tool into three categories. First, it has like a discovery tool, get service info, which allows you to discover what are available operations for a specific service. Then for each operation, it would allow you to discover like the type of that operation, what arguments does it support, and how it basically works. And then it will just have a single execute tool, which would make a API request, which is also a great way to like tackle this problem of trying to cover all of your like public APIs in a single MCP server. And another thing, you should separate your reads and writes, and there are a lot of reasons to do so. And first of all, you can use FastMCP annotations in order to like annotate which tool are read-only or either potent or destructive. And it will also like instruct the model or give some hints into which tools are probably not very, I would say, not very useful or not very fitting to the like some exploratory phase. For example, if the model doesn't know how to tackle a certain problem, it needs to gather some data, or it needs to like it doesn't know basically what to do. It won't probably call the tools which are annotated to be super destructive and so on. And it also allows you to enforce certain like authorization policies across your MCP server, which is harder to do if your tools are both reading data, writing data, deleting stuff, and so on. And tool descriptions are also your APIs, especially for the models, because you don't want to have some like vague descriptions just stating like labeling the tool. You want to give clear guidance and clear constraints to the model, what actually this tool does, what data it like accepts, in which ways it should be used. Maybe you could even post some like follow-ups. For example, if the model decides to use that tool, what should it do next? What like edge cases there could be, or what are the flows? For example, what the model should have done before calling the tool, and yeah, so that's a great place for that. And yeah, there's also you could also embed those kind of micro prompts inside your JSON schema. And coming back to pydantic models, one way of doing that is by JSON extra schema extra, where you could just provide description to the data you accept by your tools, as well as some few short examples. And for example, if you have some like larger tool or more complex tool which accepts a lot of arguments, and you have some special validation rules, and like the set of arguments can depend based on workflow, that's a great place to provide some valid examples of correct data and for which like scenarios those could be provided for. And also the same applies to the fields. You can use descriptions, titles for the fields. You can also provide examples for specific data. And yeah, but keep in mind that still you need to mind your context and do not overload it with like a lot of unnecessary information. And you can once again constrain the types by using, for example, literals and enums, and providing some regex constraints, or just by defining some JSON schema extra for the field itself. So when it comes to evaluating MCP servers, basically one way to think of it, especially for offline evaluation, is like tool selection. Like when the model tries to select a tool, it can be treated as a multi-label classification problem. And there are several metrics you can depend on. For example, true positive rate, false positive rate, which could help you answer questions. For example, does the model under-selects my tool, or does it over-select the tool for like use cases where it shouldn't have been used? And having those like numbers, you can also build confusion metrics to have a nice way to visualize, for example, which tools are competing for module's attention, or which are under-selected in certain circumstances. And if you really need it, you can use some LLMs such as judge evaluations. For example, if you do not have some ways to deterministically evaluate the like result of your agent or whatever. But there is also like a lot of I would say intricacies to think of. First of all, you should probably still check like the final state of your system after LLM performs some actions. You want to repeat those experiments because, I mean, one experiment is a noise. You want to make sure that they are repeatable and consistent. And you want still like it's beneficial to assert an arguments correction. It's not probably enough to just check that the certain tool has been called, but also to check if it has been called with the arguments you expect it to be called with. And you should read the transcripts, because the fact that the final state is correct or the certain tool has been called doesn't mean that like the entire workflow was correct. The fact that like the answer is semantically seems to be right doesn't mean that the LLM actually performed actions you wanted it to perform to reach that final state. And yeah, basically to run those evals, you can isolate what you are measuring. You do not need to depend on some external systems. For example, as we saw with this pattern with services registry and container dependency and dependency injection, you can just define some fake services and inject them in the same way you would do that in tests. And you can write evals by just having like those fake services in place, because it's important to understand or prioritize what actually are you measuring. If you are measuring your system performance, or I mean reliability or stability end-to-end, probably it's not the best idea. But if you're trying to evaluate how well your like prompts work, how well your description and tool definitions work in terms of LLM being able to understand them correctly, probably that's more than enough. And Pydantic evals understands natively FastMCP. It has like all the SDK support for it, for example, FastMCP toolset, and you can provide FastMCP instance directly into it. And I mean, there's some, it's obviously pseudocode, but you can like write some custom evaluators and some marshalling logic around like data sets and cases in order to yeah, basically evaluate how well your tools are being selected by the model. And as the last cherry on the top, I would say, I wanted to explore what's actually new in FastMCP version 3 and how it also can affect the way we can design our MCP servers. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is actual namespaces. So if you have a lot of tools and you're trying to, for example, group them by certain domain or certain workflow, you can use namespaces to kind of like mount FastMCP sub-applications into that one root application. Kind of similarly what we did with like mounting our FastMCP app as a SGI sub-application. And it will allow you to have some like duplicate names of tools, but it will give great flexibility in terms of like categorizing them into certain namespaces. Also, there is an extension called tool search. If you have really a lot of tools, it will still like performance of your agent using those MCP servers will degrade over time once you add more and more of those tools. And one way of solving for that is actually introducing this like higher level tool, which is able to search the tools based on, for example, some semantic similarity or BM25 search. And you can still like keep some tools always visible in order to make sure that the model always is able to pick them up. But for all of the rest, you can just make them searchable. And I believe that's basically how each like modern MCP client application works. For example, if you go to CLUG or ChatGPT, there's no way it could have been working without like having some sort of tool, dynamic tool discovery, taking into account like the number of MCP servers or connectors they have. And another interesting thing is code mode, which basically allows to turn like the whole MCP server idea another way around. So what it does, it actually provides you with multi sandbox execution and allows LLM to write Python code, which can then execute your MCP tools inside like a Python script and execute it like in some sandbox environment. In this case, Monty. And you can also provide some restrictions when it comes to resource utilization for that sandbox environment. And it's a really powerful pattern because when your LLM needs to compose several tools to like search data and use the data for like consequent tool calls, it all goes from it all goes through your context window, and it's super inefficient and error prone. With that, LLM can basically express any logic it would like with the tools you have, and yeah, it's really awesome. And that would be it. Thanks.
Hello. Okay. So, time for questions. Raise your hands. Okay, raise your hands if you have used FastMCP. I know some of you did. So we have no questions. No comments. Oh.
I actually have a question about this MCP search thing. Is it possible to somehow put it in between like an arbitrary other MCP server?
Yeah, I believe it is. I mean, it depends on your use case. If you know beforehand the MCP servers you would like to like proxy, I would say, FastMCP does have a way to like include some either external or remote MCP servers or like existing FastMCP instances, and you can probably then marshal it that way that it would apply this transformation with like searching functionality like to wrap that another FastMCP instance or basically any remote MCP server, but I'm not quite sure how to do it if you want to like make it configurable in order like to wrap any like varying number of MCP servers. So that's something I also wondered about.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So thank you, great presentation, but for me it was too much knowledge to understand or maybe to remember everything. My question, will you publish your presentation somewhere?
Yeah, it is actually published. I could share a link later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. In one of the slides, I saw that you registered the tool inside the app. So it means that you kind of edit the tool when app is initialized. It probably was like a fast API app or something like that before. Yeah, but anyway, so
Okay.
basically, yeah, it was line where you add a tool to the app. Yeah, here register tools. So it means that tool added when app is basically initialized, the FastMCP app, right?
Yeah.
But the MCP protocol allows to dynamically add and remove tools. How this works in this case? So when basically client starts a session, we can notify the client that tool is new tool added or removed. So in this case, it needs to communicate that per session with client.
Yeah. So there is, there is a concept of resources visibility, but I would distinguish those two things. So to make a tool available or to like be able to notify a client in the first place, you need to register the tool within your MCP server instance, and then there are like those there's FastMCP context, and you can like dynamically change visibility of certain tools or resources either based on names, tags, like categories of resources, and so on. And I mean, it also highly depends on the client because the fact that you like emit a notification that you change the visibility of the tool doesn't mean that the client would oblige to that. So yeah, but not. I mean, it's a part of MCP protocol, but not all the clients like implement all the features of the MCP. For example, not all of them support, for example, resources or some newer extensions or prompts and so on. So I mean, it highly depends. But yeah, I mean, you can turn on or off some tools based on client session, but in order to turn it on or off in the first place, you need to register it within the app itself on the startup time.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. I have a question about the testing you showed. Can you share some experience from, like, if you have from practice, do you run it like in CI? The testing tool use against the LLM.
Yeah.
Does it have like a lot of false positives, or how do you use that?
Yeah. So I mean, it depends. So I know. I mean, there is no right approach to evaluations, so it depends on the use case, I believe. But in the project I've been to, there were like evaluations in CI, but basically those evaluations used kind of like similar strategy to what I described. So they would mock a lot of like external dependencies or use fake data or like fake objects, and they would only like evaluate against certain scenarios, and if the like tool calls match, for example, like given sequence of tools with given arguments, or if like they would evaluate against some guardrails, for example, if some sort of prompts are supported, or for example, if some sort of cool tool isn't being called in certain circumstances. I mean, having this confusion matrix and matrix is nice, and you can definitely compute that in time. For example, Pydantic AI but empty vals allows you to like compute some metrics over all the runs you have over your data set, and you could basically just either like fail CI if you're like the metric you're interested in fails to match, for example, TPR or false positive rate. But yeah, I mean, in the project I've been to, there were not that many usages of those specific metrics. They would just assume, like, assert on specific use cases passing or not.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone? All right. Big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you once again for your talk. I know, speakers. We'll move on to the lightning talks. If you want to grab something to drink, now is the best time. We'll start setting up the first person, which may be, I think, Poker, Bartek. Then we'll have Disco. Where are you? There you are. All right. Then we'll have, I think you've been, yes. And anyone else wants to give lightning talk? Ah, right. So you'll be fourth. Come on, to the stage. Let's set up. Yeah, you can. Okay, I will leave mine to the last, to the end. Okay, okay. If you want to grab something to drink, now is the best time. I have no jokes. Maybe for the best. I will just repeat, because I think we'll have, Disco, you have one or two? Oh, Jesus, okay. And you are second, all right. Perfect. This will be just enough till pizza comes here, so I guess. Great presentation, very grim.
Both my screen and the other screen are black, so that's technically mirror displays.
It's mirroring the wrong display, right? No, we don't need more. You can, if we have time, you can do fourth at the end. Let's leave some space for others. Yeah. Sorry? Short one, yes. Tell a joke. Oh, come on. Nope, nothing comes to my mind. Not this time. Nothing really.
Ale mogę na niego przesunąć, ale go tam go nie ma. No mogę spróbować.
Even Gwyn's magic didn't work. Like he tried to use these magic symbols. Prezi. No.
Ty, no mogę na niego przesunąć, ale jest tak. Raz mirror zadziałał i potem już umarł.
Okay, let's maybe switch. Okay, Disco, come.
This cannot be a Wayland issue because I don't have Wayland on.
That's interesting what happened here. Now, there's an idea that if lightning talks go too well, we may actually eat pizza and listen to lightning talks. If it's like, if pizza arrives early or something, you know, it's open stage for everyone who wants to talk about something. By the way, there's a competition on the Discord channel, but I've seen some people posted some nice stuff, very good engineering ideas on bananas, for instance. So if you have something to say, you see how it works. You just share some idea, something that you have learned recently and you want to share with others, because there's always someone who didn't know that yet. And that person may be me.
Test.
It works. Okay, so the stage is yours. You want to...
I probably want to have more time, but it's...
Do you want to have a screen maybe?
I'm fine with that screen, if it works.
No, it should be the same as here.
Wait, what is going on? Display. Is the cable connected?
It may be another issue after all.
No,
oh,
I think it
we have
detects
something.
it.
No.
It's screen,
Now I see something.
screen mirroring, it says.
That's
Okay.
you. Okay, we're waiting.
That's Gwenblade.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's presenting after all? Przez moment nie było. Widać, ale to pewnie był. As you can see, this lightning talk is about how to connect your computer to the presentation's hardware.
I think now it should
make
work.
it work.
Let's see.
Let's see. Not
Nope.
yet.
I mean,
Nothing yet.
my system detects the...
Oh,
Yeah,
we have
it is there.
Yay.
Cool.
It's here. Okay, so with no further ado.
Yeah, welcome everybody. I'm disconnected and I'm going to have 4 lightning talks. So first one will be about LLM fine-tuning. Yeah, you know me. Anyway, so there was this challenge from DICE CTF qualifications competition, which has finals in August. We didn't really qualify. We scored 21st place with 19 solved challenges. But anyway, so the challenge was called Leadgate, and the description was: an ancient artifact has been discovered. It seems to trace back to an alchemist in Assisi, whatever that means. But basically in the challenge, we got a model save tensors file. And so this model tensor file was basically a GPT-2 model, or 2.5, I don't remember. So it was fine-tuned to not give out the secret to us. So if you launch the model itself and ask it what is the secret, it could tell you something like, I can't tell you. So they had the base GPT-2 or 2.5 model, they fine-tune it, and well, the responses from the model were basically hiding the flag from us, I mean the secret. So what is fine-tuning? Well, basically you take the model, you have some training data, you want to train this additionally, and with this training you update the weights of the model eventually, and you get the fine-tuned model. So you get the same model, but with different weights. And if you have the model file, you have the weights of it, of course. So you have the weights for both the original model and the fine-tuned one. And so what you can do is you can compute the delta, like what is the difference between the fine-tuned and the original one. And because this is what the training added to it, right? And then you can compute a new model, which would be like the original model minus the delta, which will create you a model that will be trained for the different case. I mean, for the opposite case than the original one. So as a result, now, if you ask the model what is the secret, it will be much more likely to give you the secret instead of not giving you the secret. Because it was trained to not give you the secret that you see here, right? That was the secret that we had to steal from the model. We actually didn't solve the challenge, but I think it's really cool. That you could write, 100 lines of Python code to actually solve it. Yeah, but we didn't solve it. Anyway, another topic I wanted to say about is CLUG Mythos preview. And maybe, by the way, OpenAI has also some kind of cool GPT cyber models. But there is a lot of marketing from Anthropic and other companies about CLUG Mythos preview. where there's like this model which has really good cybersecurity capabilities. The problem is the Anthropic's blog post like really mentions that they found lots of bugs like in the Linux kernel, in web browsers, in crypto libraries, but the blog post actually goes into only like details of 3 of them, like an OpenBSD bug, FFmpeg, and one other. So the question is, where are all the other bugs? Because if they found a lot of them, they should probably report them and so on, right? And well, if you follow the media, there are now some of them are now disclosed, like for Firefox or Chrome or other stuff. We can find a lot of articles about it. There's also an article from curl. There's an article from Xint Code, which says you don't need Mythos, you need a system, which actually benchmarked Mythos against other models and against some kind of agentic system that has like cool additional prompts to it to find bugs. There is one from Cloudflare about what Mythos showed them. I'm not going into the details like what the blog post says, but because we don't really have that much time. But what I wanted to show you is this. So you can find some pull requests to some projects, which will say something like a credit where is this found by CLUG during an automated review conducted by Anthropic, and then manually validated and patched by Trail of Bits. So there are people who are basically looking into the bugs from that model, or like reported by Anthropic, and are validating them and patching them. And there will probably be some kind of announcement about that later on as well. What I also wanted to show you is there is some kind of exploit bench paper, which is some kind of white paper they did. I mean, some people did about like how different models, how good are different models in exploiting vulnerabilities. So there is some kind of comparison. I don't really know what that mean cap here means, but basically, they compared the Mythos preview to GPT 5.5 and other models. But what is interesting here is that in this benchmark, you can see that the Mythos models spent like $30,000, $20,000, whereas the like GPT spent like 3,000 or 8,000, and some other models like were kind of much smaller in spend. So maybe you can have like a model that has great capabilities of finding and exploiting vulnerabilities, but at the same time it costs much more, obviously. Maybe not obviously, but yeah, that it seems to be the case actually. Yeah, another topic I wanted to say is mobile data roaming. So I was actually traveling a lot recently, and I got this like message from my provider that you want to log into the foreigner data operator, I mean the mobile one. And typically in Europe, they say you something like, hey, you have this free packet you can use up to like 10 gigabytes or something across all Europe. But this time I got a different message which says something like, using the data roaming may incur additional costs if you are using it in a non-standard way. What the hell is non-standard way? Well, if you go to some of those websites they link, they will tell you that that according to the EU regulations, a non-standard way or not correct way of using roaming may incur payments. And they don't really explain it further. But the real case why they do it is that you may buy data in Poland, like a data packet, and then go to, I don't know, Germany, where the data there is much more expensive, and use the roaming packet there. And people did that. This is typically called like arbitrage or something, where you find a case like that where it's optimal to do things like that. And apparently, well, it is not illegal, but if you do that, they will incur more costs on you. Maybe also ban you, I don't know, really. One thing I wanted to say about is this case. So I found a bug in Cloud Code, which if you do, let me do a clear here. But basically, if you execute this command, so we are creating a directory with a new line character, then cd to it, and then clod. What's happening here is that clod doesn't really start. It freezes. It doesn't work. There is some bug in there. I don't really know why. I didn't really investigate it, but I actually reported it to them. So yeah, I reported it to them last week. There is no reply, but maybe eventually it will be fixed. And that's basically it. Thank you.
This should. Oh, it's working. Thank you. What?
To nie był Linux problem.
It's not a Linux problem. Great. That reassures me. Speakers helping speakers. Thank you. Let's see if it works now. And by the way, while we were setting up, some more speakers came with the idea of having lightning talks, which is great because, like I said, even if pizza arrives, it will be in the same room. So you can eat pizza and you can listen to lightning talks. Do you like lightning talks? Raise your hands. Yeah, we love them. Szymon, are you working on some lightning talk right now? No, not this time. We have some, Olympic level lightning talk creators who do that like on the fly during the other lightning talks. I did it myself sometime. Yes, here we are. Let's go.
In terms of just responding to other lightning talks, I found it very funny when they announced the amount of people who didn't realize the difference between Anthropic says they're scared to release Mythos and Anthropic is actually scared to release Mythos is astounding. It's like there was so many people saying, oh, they say it, so it must be right. They say the number goes up by 30% and number goes up by 30% every single time. And they have to be right this time, right? That's incredible. And also, like, I said, like, yes, when you mentioned the OpenVSD bug, because that's all I heard about. And I was like, but there have to be other ones, right? Why is everyone saying just the one? Okay, anyway, this is a rant, and it's both, I'm doing this because I haven't heard it, like, ever, I think. But also to some people it might be obvious, so it's kind of like weirdly both. Some people say shit like this, and it's ridiculous, that they don't hire juniors anymore, and even if they do have to hire juniors, then the juniors will be generating code, which is weird. LinkedIn posts about this are just rage bait noise, but that's just LinkedIn for you. LinkedIn has always been like this, and it's also like LinkedIn has always been the people where the people who post frequently on LinkedIn and like and in this way are people who think they're the smartest people on earth, and like a LinkedIn convention has to be a hellhole where like everyone in the room thinks that. But anyway, they have always been that, and that's true. And even if you strip off the noise and the hype and everything else, then most keywords these days, like agentic coding, relate to code generation. And because everything on the internet is either the best or the worst, but usually the worst, and even if you know how algorithms work and that's how the internet looks nowadays, it still can get in your head. It sometimes gets into mine. So yeah, knowing this doesn't always really help. Anyway, with that, a lot of people keep saying stuff like this, and it's just not true in a sense that I am a junior, and I think we have some people who are not very well into their tech careers with us today. So that's not just only me. Knowledge didn't suddenly stop mattering, like as in, you know, it's not like you don't have to know things anymore, and it's still kind of fun. Like I'm saying kind of fun because some of these posts seem to be from people who just hate knowledge, as in they're like some weird anti-intellectualists. So that's crap, but at the same time, like, yeah, it's still fun to know how computers work, period. And knowing seemingly unrelated stuff about how computers work is still good, even if it doesn't benefit you directly. If you know how an array is optimized, and linked list is optimized in C++, whatever, might still be relevant to like backend web because you know more about how computers work. But generally, knowledge still matters, and juniors, at least I think so. As a junior, we shouldn't be generating code because, like, you should only be generating stuff that you can triage and judge. And like, how can you judge things you've seen twice, right? Like, how you can judge things you've seen 100 times easily because you have a muscle for it. But if you don't have a muscle for it, then like, how do you know the machine is wrong? Because what I'm essentially saying is, it's like a lot of people are talking about code generations because these are seniors or mids or whoever that already know the stuff they're generating, and that's fine. I'm also not talking about vibe coding because I don't care if you vibe coding. I'm saying in terms of professional work you're submitting to for people to use. This is not an anti-LLM talk. A lot of people would like to think that for some reason. LLMs are great, and LLMs are very helpful if you use them the right way. And yeah, and because I hate complaining for the sake of complaining, this is a couple of things I've done. And if you are a junior or someone who likes being AI assisted and not generating code, then I'm happy to talk about your approaches because I'm not very good at this yet. I'm kind of new. So yeah, read-only Cloud code. I'm the one writing. Just how I never pasted code. I believe originally I heard this from Ginvale Coldwind. Don't paste. And it's been the case with Stack Overflow, and it is the case with LMs for me. I don't paste code I don't understand. I'm the one writing. It's a little slower, but at the same time, I have to understand everything I'm writing. And these are a couple of things I've used in Cloud Code in terms of how it better fits me for him being an actual copilot and not actually doing anything for me. Yeah, that's about it. That's a rant I haven't seen and I thought was a little missing. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go. Another one is coming. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4 lightning talks. Let me help you. I can keep it. Perfect. Okay, you can go.
Hello, hello. Okay, immutable dicts are coming to Python. It was proposed in PEP 814, and you may ask why don't we have already like immutable dicts? Yeah, kinda. There is mapping proxy type, which behaves a little bit like immutable dictionaries, but also kinda not, because like you're trying to dump string, JSON string from this dictionary, it doesn't work. It throws some errors. So this is not immutable dictionary, it's read-only view over dict. And if you're having deja vu, yes, I've already talked about a little bit about it on Pykonik 79. And yes, it's the same one when Gracjan laptops refuse to connect to HDMI. And yeah, frozen dicts were already rejected because apparently the use is low. But this is from 2012, and in 2026 it has apparently changed. Yes. So there was asynchronous asyncio was implemented. There's some concurrency issues with mapping proxy type. And that's why people are using like third-party frozen dicts. So they figured that why don't just implement it in Python in the native way. And I think that's all. But I have a few more minutes, so I'll maybe give you a fun fact about this. The first this one, the first PEP was the first proposal was that. Those frozen dicts will inherit from a dictionary, and it was also one of the reasons, I'm not sure if it's not probably listed here, but it was also one of the reasons why it was rejected, because there were like ways to because of how inheriting works, there were ways to mess it all up. So this one, this like new that's coming in Python 3.15, this frozen dict is actually inheriting from just object. So yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Any questions during the after party? Let's switch. Vlad, yes, come on. Vlad, then we have also, okay. Go on. I will keep it. Okay. So who's staying for after party? And after the after party, we'll have pizza, you know. So staying for pizza. Where are guys going during the after party? Wait, the others are not staying here for pizza? Is it free? It's free. Free pizza. I mean, we have more than free pizzas. Is it open source? When we open the box, there will be sauce. You asked for it. Okay. Oh, okay. We can go with this one.
Does it work?
Oh.
Okay. Oh, it works. So raise your hand if you have ever used or if you are using HTTPX in any of your projects, or have you heard of it? Great. And do you know what is the latest, like, in which year was HTTPX released, like, the last time? It's 2024. It hasn't been released for more than 2 years. And actually one guy has found out about it, and he tried to fix a bug that he basically introduced to HTTPX by merging some support for the standard compression. And basically, he couldn't find a way to get his fixes merged, and there were like a lot of fixes piled up by that time. So what he decided to do, he decided just to fork HTTPX and named it HTTPX-YC. And after a month or so, he also discovered that forking HTTPX isn't enough because it highly depends on HTTP core, which is also a library like maintained by the same author. So he had to fork this one too, and while doing so, fixing a lot of like bugs or like inefficiencies or like bringing some new features such as like, I don't know, hashable origin or so on. And you can find documentation for HTTPX-YC easily, but there's one interesting thing about it, which actually caught my eye, is that what it does, it introduces some sort of HTTPX compatibility. So what it's trying to do is when you install this package and you import it at the entry point of your application, somewhere at the very top, for example, of entry point module, it will try to override these modules with itself for HTTPX. And it makes it possible to, for example, some external packages which try to like depend on HTTPX and import HTTPX to basically have it behave such as that they use HTTPX, but in reality what they use is HTTPX-YC. And it's a supported pattern like from historically other projects. And it also ships with some like plugins, for example, to some well-known extensions, so some such as RSPX or PyTest HTTPX. And if you really even do not want to install HTTPX at all, but some dependency like has HTTPX listed as its sub-dependencies, you can even use something like requires test in dependency metadata in UV in order to like pretend that dependency installs HTTPX when in reality it would install HTTPX-YC. And this project is hosted on Codeberg, and you can actually see how they implement this like kind of aliasing. So they basically iterate over these modules and replace any like appearance of something prefix with HTTPX with itself. But they only do that if the model hasn't been already imported. And actually, Pydantic has also done the same thing. So they forked HTTPX and named it HTTPX2. And I believe it's like Pydantic has a solid track record of supporting open source projects. So I'm quite sure that this one will strive in longer term. And you can find it on GitHub. And the last thing is Python 3.15 will ship with Sentinels built in standard library. I have given a lightning talk on Sentinels at some Pykonik some time ago, and to use those you would basically need to install some third-party package which would do a lot of like magic when it comes to like creating objects pickling and unpickling. And from Python 3.15 it will be built in, and yeah, basically you will have a way to declare your own custom objects which would behave such as none or not implemented or ellipses. And it will be fully compatible with typing. So, I mean, you could just use some union types and it will work out of the box, similar to optional. And that would be it. Thanks.
You see, I can try tell jokes, but they silence me. Anyway, thank you. Maciek to the stage. Okay. I see more hands with lightning talks. Are you tired with lightning talks already? Do you want more lightning talks? Do you want pizza? Of course you like pizza, and you want pizza because you're Pythonistas, and in Python we have something called slicing. It all connects. All right. Feeling ready? Open source pizza? Now contributions.
Kind of. Yeah.
Open source pizza.
This is a nod to your joke. So I didn't know how to title this talk, and well, it's about open source contribution. That open source contribution is really about the friends we made along the way. I have this device. This is called XT Ink X4. It's a super small ebook reader. It looks like this. So it's smaller than your usual phone. And it used to be cheap. Now it got a little bit pricier. It's built on ESP32. And it's kind of open architecture stuff. I mean, it ships with some browser and ink reader stuff, but the open source project actually is a little bit better. It's called Crosspoint Reader, and everyone installs it, and it works great. And the battery lifetime on this thing is absolutely ridiculous. And it's super small, so I can carry it in my pocket and read everywhere. And I already read a book on it, and it's great. But the problem that I had is that getting files out and in is kind of troublesome. I used to have a Kindle from Amazon, and there everything synced over Wi-Fi. This didn't have this option. It has SD card. You can transfer files via USB, and also it has Wi-Fi. It actually supports a WebDAV server. How many of you know what WebDAV is? Raise your hand. So if you know Nextcloud, OwnCloud, those open source things that are like Dropbox, they usually also serve over WebDAV, and you can interact with it programmatically. It hosts a WebDAV server, but doesn't have WebDAV client, which is weird. I also self-host, so it would be nice to get my files from my C file in this case through the Wi-Fi, right? So what I thought is, I can make a pull request to it. And actually, I vibe coded this because it's written in C, so it's below me to write this kind of code. So I made a pull request, and there was not much code to be done, actually. I also made this fork and announced it on Reddit because maybe some people would like it, because it was obvious for me that this device has this capability. So I opened this pull request on March 24. As you can see, there is a lot of conversation there because they have an AI bot that actually replies and checks your code, which is actually kind of fine, and it worked here kind of good, but there was a lot of this stuff going on until April 4th. So then, if the bot didn't require me to write more code, I wanted to ping real humans. And I did, and I waited, and there was a response from some random guy that said, well, I like this, I have been using it for a while, it's solid, and there was a requested review, so things were going well. And then I got an email, actually, from a random guy from the internet that he liked what I did, which is kind of nice. And I didn't expect it. So this guy needed to find my email, probably in the comments, I don't know, on the GitHub or wherever, and wrote an email to me that he made a thread in the subthread in the discussion that he would like to integrate this, which is great. I didn't expect that at all. And he was actually pushing this stuff to happen. And it was going further. That one of the maintainers, I think this was the main one at the time, responded that, sorry, I don't really understand it, maybe we'll have to wait. But 2 days ago, this guy actually said, yeah, let's do this, let's go, let's have this verified by human. And they did. There were some comments, they made more or less sense. Well, this is easily solvable. Yeah, but then 13 hours ago, on discussion with the team, this isn't currently a priority for inclusion. If there is more desire to see this feature, feel free to open a topic on the discussions page. It's worth to mention those thumbs down here. And Michael, my new open source friend, wrote to me, I open new discussion about this. Why they are resisting? It's so useful. And then this guy, Justin, says, see some thumbs down and frowny faces here. That's exactly the kind of community feedback we need to resurface this. And I said, well, he asked to open a discussion, and I said, well, this was opened not by me, and it's already there before he wrote this comment. And actually, this guy that I was emailing with told me that he uses this web fork to actually sync with Google Drive, which I wasn't expecting that this enables such capability, which is nice. And remember this, this main developer said, see some thumbs down and frowny faces here. Well, it was Michael. So it was really nice to find someone who will be rooting, some random guy on the internet who will be rooting for your code. And maybe the real treasure was the friends we made along the way. But I still want my web dev. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Oh. All right. You can go. Because you all like lightning talks, right? Yeah. And do you like pizza? Yeah. Do we have pizza? Why do we want pizza? Okay, like a meme in life. But actually, I've seen Gandhi leaving, so probably pizza is coming, which is nice because we'll have this lightning talk, then some community announcements from me, and the ending presentation. Single claps. You know how single claps for sponsors work, right? So everyone who doesn't know yet, you'll learn after the first one. That's easy. You're ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's go. Oh, now you're ready.
Now I'm ready, I think. Yes, I wanted to start. Maciej, so where's the link? Because I want to, give another emoji there. But I have an extra lightning talk, and this is about end-to-end encryption. So my question is, who uses that? Do you use end-to-end encryption messaging? Okay, plenty of you use that. That's good. So do you verify end-to-end encryption keys? Raise your hand. Not many of you do that, and you should do that. So the thing is, if you use something like Signal or WhatsApp, I don't know if you can do it in iMessage, probably yes, maybe not, I have no idea. You should go to settings when you are, settings of your participant of the discussion, and you should do that, verify safety numbers there. And you should verify that those numbers match their numbers. Like you can also scan a QR code between your phones. And you should do it on using another device, most likely. I basically don't send those numbers using your own device, because if your own device is hacked and you send it through another messenger or something, and then someone replies you on the same device, this could be hijacked potentially. So if you verify that this matches, it's more likely that you are actually talking to the human that you really want to talk to, and that nobody else is, intercepting those messages and looking at their content actually, because that means it's most likely really end-to-end encrypted. Of course, you can do that on WhatsApp. This is how it looks there as well. But I also wanted to shame Instagram, because if you have heard about that, Meta decided to end end-to-end encryption on Instagram as of May 8th. The reasoning for it is that it wasn't used widely by users. Why? Well, because it was opt-in. Like, if an encryption is opt-in and users do not understand what encryption is, then they won't use that, which is really, really bad. So shame on Meta. And honestly, I guess why they probably did that is because they probably want data for training their AI models, right? Which kind of sucks. So maybe don't use DM messages on Instagram for anything else than sending stories to your friends or reels or whatever that is there. And that's really it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So I have noticed that on your first slide there was this E to EE. But since they ended end-to-end encryption, it's EE to EE. Double E to double E. Till the end. I was about to tell you, since you like lightning talks, recently we've been in Warsaw on Python Pizza. This is not an advertisement because it's already done. But those of you who know how Python Pizza looks, it's, oh Jesus, why? It's a format of short presentations which are a little bit longer because they are long for 10 minutes. But I came up with the idea of Python Pinsa, which is basically consists of lightning talks only. So anyway, let's go with the announcements, then you know the drill. Starting with, oh, we see it already. That's nice. So first of all, who has heard about EuroPython? Oh, not so many of you. I can now tell you what it is. Okay, so this conference is coming to Cracow. It will be in July. So basically, registration is open. This is what I want to share with you. The second thing is that the pool for sponsors is melting, and there's not much space for sponsors left. So if you are interested, if your company can be interested, this is the last call for them to wake up and join, and it's worth it. Now, I was authorized, don't kill me, Artur, to show you that the schedule is already almost there. I'm going through it really quick because it's just my local host. But basically, it's not published yet, but should be any day now, any hour now. I don't know when, but it's almost there. If you go to YouTube, you can pause and look through it. This is the trick. Now, here's another thing. Yesterday evening, but basically today morning, we started a call for volunteers for EuroPython. It's the great way of enjoying this event, not just through going to talks and meeting other people, but meeting people who also organize this stuff, who do this stuff. You can look under the hood of the organization of this thing and meet new people too. So if you want to join as a volunteer, the page this is the live page. So basically it's online. You can go to this volunteering page, read some details. At the bottom of all this information, you will find this apply to volunteer button. which will lead you to the form. So, because it's locally, and EuroPython is in Cracow, it's like, if not this year, then when? If not here, then where? Just join. If you want to volunteer, go on. If you have any questions about volunteering, just catch me afterwards, because I'm somewhat involved in this entrepreneurship. So I can answer to any questions regarding this stuff. And I'm going with these announcements in the reverse chronological order. So this is in mid-July. Now, at the beginning of July, I invite you to join DevOps Days in Cracow, which are here. Yay! And if you, yeah, thank you. So actually, after a year of break, we are coming back. The good news is we have selected speakers already too, but I don't have schedule yet, even on localhost. But we are working on this. It should be up this weekend, if I find time. But yeah, it should be up. If you don't know what it is, what's going on, and what it is about, just catch me or just go to devopsdays.org. This is basically the website for all DevOps Days events that are happening around the world all year, and we are one of these. So yeah, there are no tickets yet, but there will be. And I can say it will be very cheap, and it's on Saturday, so you can join, even if no one is letting you, mostly. Okay, the last one, the closest one, is Pykonik. Who knows what Pykonik is? Okay, to those of you who don't know what Pykonik is, it's a, I know it's hard to imagine, but this is more informal version of Pykonik. And you know how it is in here, so it's even more informal. And actually it happens, it will be in Nowy Kraftowy on Nowy Kleparz, Plac Nowy, sorry, on Tuesday. So very, very close to this event. So on the next Tuesday, we are meeting in Nowy Kraftowy. Just join us. This is the space where we just sit around the table and discuss stuff, with whatever comes up. It's a nice form of spending time together, sharing some ideas, coming up with new ideas, sometimes crazy. Yep, it's up on meetup.com already. So yeah, I even created this, okay, this will be funny. I even created this, kto nie skacze, ten z .NET-u, hop, hop, hop. But actually we are open to all of people who write in anything. But actually I will tell you what Poker came up with, just to fill it in, because we can also come up with kto nie skacze, ten z assembly, nop, nop, nop. Which means you don't jump because it's a nop, and you are from assembly. Anyway, this was very hermetic. So, feel invited to join us on Tuesday. You will find us on meetup.com. End of announcements. Let's go here. And I know pizza is here. Do you like pizza? Yeah. Well, you're not so enthusiastic anymore. Well, let's wait a minute or two. We are hungry. Okay. Just energy dropped. All right, so feedback. If you haven't done this yet, go to pykonik.org/feedback. Round of single claps for our sponsors, ECHO Miasta and Tytano. Nice. Relativity. Programista Magazyn. Paged Out. CLUG. JetBrains. And actually here I have to stop. I have to go to Discord. You are clapping for the competition. Competition is the sponsor of our competition. What is that? Guys, someone put a GIF of a chipmunk, I think, looking at me, staring at me right now on the phone. Okay, anyway. So, who's got most reactions? Is that? Okay, it's a banana news. So, so apparently there's a super trick on how to make banana last longer. Context, which is Pedro. Okay, so you want the license? This is like the drill. You want it. All right. I will decide for you. So congrats. Big round of applause. Let me see who was second. We can give another one. Oh, there were too many seconds. You will have to fight for pizza in a few minutes. Okay, let's move on. Anyway, if you are not there and you haven't been part of this competition, you can next time if you join our Discord. So join our Discord on discord.pykonik.org if you are not there yet. There are some cool channels like Random channel where everything may happen, and there's a programming channel where I don't know if we're speaking about programming. So anyway, you know what this means. That's it. That's it. They call me Velios, and it's been a pleasure to run this Pykonik for you. Thank you very much. Go take pizza, have after party. Party, party.